back again for another episode of Football Unscripted. What should we talk about?
You know what a good topic would be? Because of our background, we've both been in non-league football, we've both been in professional football, both been in those coaching environments. Where's the next Jamie Vardy going to come from? Is that gap now too big between the Football League and non-league grassroots football? And why?
I think that conference football, as in non-league football, if you're talking like, was it step one? Is that step one conference? So from there to Football League, I think is still fairly close enough. But I think anything out of that, I don't know of many managers that will look into that far down now. I mean, you know, I never went for an academy. I went from step 4 to Division 1 Premier League.
Yeah.
So I was quite fortunate. But does anybody look that far anymore? You know, you talk about with the next Jamie Vardy. I know currently there's one player that's being tatted around, probably getting a lot of press at the moment, because I think he scored 170 odd goals or something like that. He's just signed for Swindon, but you've got a manager like Ian Holloway, who's an old school manager, happy to look at someone. I think his name's Jake Table or something like that. But then he's been sent on loan for a month to Bath, back in non-league. But I guess that's to get some games rather than throwing him straight in. So you go...
There's good management, to be fair.
There's still the odd person out there, but he's getting a lot of press because he's probably one of the only ones at the moment that's coming through.
Yeah.
You know, I said I came from non-league. You got your Jamie Vardys, Ian Wright, non-league, 24.
Very much so, yeah.
Crystal Palace.
If you look around,
Chris
that
Smalling,
sort of era,
people like that.
There was loads, wasn't there? There was loads that made that step up. I honestly believe now that if you prepare to look and you prepare to delve, you prepare to go and scout games where you probably, egos probably don't want to go, I think you can pick them up. The reason for this is, as we spoke last week about the academy system, I think now that the academy system is coughing out so many players. I don't think it's because of their natural ability. I think it's one size fits all. I honestly believe that everyone wants to coach like Pep. I think everybody sees that as the benchmark. And what we're doing now, we're not looking at individuals and looking at their finer individual skill, whether that's heading a football, whether that's tackling. Everyone's judged now on Cruyff turning and keeping possession, and I think it's killing the game a little bit. Now, my experience, you talk about Swindon, they've just signed 2 of my players that I signed from non-league in Ollie Palmer and Ryan Tafazoli.
Well, I was going to ask you that obviously your time at Mansfield, for example, did you send your scouts out to look everywhere? Did you ask for specifics in terms of players? Did you care where they were coming from? As long as they were what you wanted, like say you got Ryan Tafazoli, and you talked about him last week that couldn't head a ball.
Yeah.
Was that one of the sort of prerequisites, or was it, big, tall, strong centre half?
Well, we was in League 2 at the time, and in League 2, without sounding sort of, I don't want to sound posh or anything like that, but you've got to be able to head a football. You've got to be able to stick your head on it in the opposition's box, and I always demanded sort of like 5 to 10 goals a season from my centre backs.
So did it matter where your scouts got that player from?
I'll be honest with you, Chris. I love the ones that have been discarded. I love the ones that have been discarded and had that rawness about them, but just needed polishing. And I think there's a lot of footballers out there. For whatever reason, it's not all about the academies. Some of these kids have wrong attitudes now. We see them on a day-to-day basis now. There's kids that just haven't got the right sort of mindset.
I got classed as having a bad attitude by a manager.
Yeah.
I never even spoke to the manager.
Yeah.
It was actually I was on trial at Forest. I was walking down the corridor. Ron Atkinson was coming the other way, and apparently I had a bad attitude. And the reason I had a bad attitude was this: I used to wear my hat like that.
Yeah, look,
and
we can take this off at a tangent.
Yeah, I know, but
you know.
I just sometimes I think people will assume based on your looks rather than knowing anything about you, and it kind of annoyed me a little bit. I'd never even spoke to the bloke, got no problem with it, had no issues with it. It was something I found out later in life, but I just thought, wow, that's just typical. I'm just minding my own business, trying to make a career, trying to get an opportunity, and somebody's classing me a big name at that time, saying I've got a bad attitude because I was wearing my hat backwards.
When we came through, Chris, I look now. Andy Cole was in our sort of age group. I don't think Andy had the best sort of schooling in terms of. I don't think he survived a number of schools in Nottingham, but with the one Andy Cole that went through, the one Paul Cox, one Chris Freeston, I think there was hundreds that were left by the wayside because they were classed as being a problem. When we talk about inner city players, I think we can go off in a tangent with tennis when you look at how the Americans did it with the two sisters, but I think there's a lot of raw talent in the inner cities where football clubs just do not want to tread because of attitude, etc. I think you can. Well,
by all accounts, Jermaine Pennant would never have made professional football. Had somebody at Notts County took him under his wing and helped and supported him and give him a little bit of extra leeway, you know, when he's gone past curfews and stuff like that, when he was staying in people's houses.
When you're a young man, you think like a young man. If you know, I made loads of mistakes when I was a kid. Made loads of mistakes when I was a young man. You know, what happened to me when I came through early on, I had Mick Walker, people like Paul Hart, real disciplinarians that, wow, you had to grow up quick and you had to abide by the rules. But they never kicked that rawness out of me. I
think that's what suits people like us better, is straight talkers.
Yeah.
I truly believe it. I never like people that beat around the bush.
Yeah.
You know, if people thought I was a twat, I'd prefer someone call me a twat to my face than say it behind my back, and I'd go, okay, let's deal with it, let's sort it out. That's not a problem. It's when you find out about, you know, all the, and all that. I can't stand it. Never could. I was terrible at school because of it. I'd just rather somebody just go, bosh, this is what you got to do with this. And I found that best when we talk about coaching and we talk about academy football. And I think sometimes you look in academy football, and this is not a dig at academy football, but I think sometimes you look at academy football and there's a lot of structure in there. Yeah. But I don't think they want to take the time for those inner city kids sometimes. Not all academies. There's some good academies out there that will look at, you know, players as players and people as well, which is the important part. Just going back to the sort of grassroots in the gap, I read something today, and I don't know how long it's going. It's only I only picked it up today, but they've actually now brought out a junior Premier League, a JPL league, because it's supposed to bridge the gap between grassroots and academy. Yeah. And I go, well, does it need to? Are you taking the best players out of grassroots and putting them in this league because they're not quite good enough for academy? Why not just get these players into academies and help and support them? Because I've worked in academies and I've had some kids that not quite good enough, but if you put the time and effort into them and tell them what they needed to do to where they need to get to, some of these kids will go away and do it. I used to spend hours in the back garden just smashing the ball against the wall, working on my first touch, you know. Get hammered by my folks, obviously, because breaking stuff around the house. And I encouraged my son to do the same when he was little. But
sometimes, that's basics, Chris, isn't it? That's basics.
And then I go on the park and play till 11 o'clock at night. Can't see the football, but you play football, and that's where you learned. I never got coached. I got lots of advice, especially when I got older. You know, when I was at Arnold, and I had Ian McCulloch as an ex-professional striker from Notts County. He just used to say, Chris, just get it, give it, and move. And that, for me, has stuck with me for
simple game,
30 odd years, 40 years. It's just stuck with me all the time. So everywhere I've ever been, get it, give it, and move. And do what you're best at. And my best thing was scoring goals. So get hold of the ball, give it to someone that can play me. Yeah. Basically, give it me where I want it. Yeah. I want it on the halfway line, to be honest with you. I don't want it in the channels. I want it in the box where I can score goals where I'm having fun. So it was get it, give it, and move, and that's all he did. And he just constantly said that to me, and he helped and supported me, when I went to Middlesbrough.
Yeah. And in that way, people like that become a mentor to you, and you, as two inner city boys as we are, I did it with Paul Art and more so with Mick, in that you give them unbelievable respect back for being honest and robust with you. When you go back to Vardy, I was probably one of the first on the scene when he was at Stocksbridge. A guy called Paul Ogden that was scouting for me, was brilliant in non-league football, was everywhere. We were covering a lot of games then, me and my staff, and he mentioned him. But I'll be honest with you, it contradicts what I've just said, is that I did my homework on him and found out he had a lot of bad habits, and we decided not to do it.
Everybody has one that slips through the net, as Frank Clark tells me on a regular basis, because he could have signed me. Yeah. But look, I think it happens. I think it happens. Sometimes you just think he's not, they're not the right fit, and you look at it years later and you go, well, it is what it is. I mean, I don't have any regrets at all. People say to me, oh, you could have signed for him, you could have signed for there, you could have signed here, you could have gone there, you could have played under him. I go, yeah, I could. Yeah. But that's out of my hands. Yeah. That had nothing to do with me, so why can I regret it? Yeah. I might be a little disappointed I never got to go and play for Kevin Keegan when he was at Fulham or somewhere like that back in the day. But it's one of those things. It's like, it's out of my hands. It is what it is.
You can't go back.
No. So. But I do look at non-league, and I think, and we watch a lot of games, and I go, would any of these players be able to step up into professional football, especially the daily grind of professional football, not just the game day, because the game day is the pinnacle of it. The game day is the best part of it. Yeah. It's the 9 to 5 stuff. And okay, it's not 9 to 5, but it's the daytime stuff, and then the nighttime, and then away from, the home life, and away from training and all those other things that you can't do. When I first signed for Middlesbrough, I had to give a holiday up. So I was playing in non-league. I got my holiday booked with a family, and I was like, I signed and everything. Like, oh, by the way, I've got a holiday. No, you hadn't. Oh yeah, it's with my family. No, you hadn't. We're training.
If it had been with the lads, you wouldn't have given it up, would you?
No, not at all. But they literally told me there and then, it's pre-season or close to the start of the season. Give it up. Go and have a holiday now, and give that up. You can't do it. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do it. No riding motorbikes. No paragliding. None of that. No skiing. None of that sort of dangerous stuff. All the things that you have to give up. And then I learned very quickly, holiday is just another training environment. Yeah. It's not I'm going to lay around the beach and get absolutely shit-faced. It's a training environment. It's moderately drinking, moderately eating, go for runs, get in the gym. And I learned that very, very quickly. And I look at the players in non-league sometimes and I go, could they do that? Are they good enough to get into professional football?
I'm going to flip this on the head. So I've spoken to a number of players over the last 6 months about their personal pathway, and I think this is relevant because this is what we do. Now they're in non-league football at the minute, and I'll be honest with you, some of them are earning really, really good money. Some of them got good careers, and in their early sort of 20s, I question why they'd want to go into the lower leagues, and the reason for that is, unless you're going to have a really good career. And I think this is key in terms of giving people good advice. Unless you're going to have a really good career and go and play, for 9 or 10 years in the Championship, the Premier League, or in a good league, another good league in the world, I personally believe you are better to stay non-league, get a great education, and look at a career that coincide that works alongside your non-league. So for people out there that don't understand the non-league scene, you can play train on a Tuesday, train on a Thursday, play on a Saturday. Now this season I've touched base with a lot of clubs, a lot of players, and some of the money you can get at step 4 of non-league football now,
it's different gravy,
is
isn't it?
Unbelievable.
It is different gravy now.
We're talking 40s, 50s, 60 grand a year for playing on a Tuesday, training on a Tuesday, playing on a Thursday, and playing on a Saturday. Now, there's players in League 2, there's players in League 1 that aren't earning that. Now, some of these lads as well have got, they're studying to become teachers, or they're looking to run their own business, you know, either builders or something like that. And I go,
long-term careers.
at some point, your career will finish. And if you, what a lot of footballers don't realise is at some point you're going to wake up and you cannot play anymore. And that's where most players, I think, struggle with the transition into normal everyday life. So what I try to tell, well, I try to advise players, and I try to advise mums and dads as well that are just overawed with this. I wants to be a professional footballer. I
think that's where the issue is that it's everybody sees it as a dream job.
Yeah.
Everybody sees it as a dream career. Everybody wants to be not everybody, but you know what I mean when I say everybody. Everybody wants to be a professional footballer.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I started at the top and went down the league. So by the time I got, you know, down to Hartlepool in League Two, and Shrewsbury in League Two, you know, I was coming to the end of it anyway. I was getting older.
Yeah.
Because I started late anyway. I was 24 when I started, but by the time I got down to League Two, I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
So I was already looking at coming out of the game.
Yeah.
You know, and going into non-league, back into non-league, and just, I don't want this to sound horrible, but I wanted to enjoy football again.
Yeah.
It became a job at certain you know, at certain times. It became a job.
People don't realise it's a tough
I always
business.
said when football became a job, it's time to pack it up.
Yeah.
And then I went back into the non-league and I fell in love with football again. I got injured, came back from an injury, fell in love with it all over again. Still want to play now. I'm 54 now and I still want to play. I still can play. I'm still going to play. I'll be playing for next year. But because I just love the game so much.
Yeah.
But I'm not in the daily grind of it, you know, and then thinking about and the pressures that come with it. If I don't perform, somebody, you know, managers bring another player in and you're looking over your shoulder straight on. And I'm not being funny, and I'll stick by my guns. I've always said this: there's no friends in football. Everybody wants your job. Lots of acquaintances, lots of people. I met up with somebody the other day, one of my old teammates from Middlesbrough. It's like we've never been away. You know, help me, how's it going? A bit of banter and stuff like fantastic, top guy. Probably won't see him again for another 20 years or whatever. You know, and we'll go through the same thing. Lots of acquaintances in football. No true friends, I don't think.
It's a tough business. It's a tough business. But what I was trying to get across is that when you get to ultimately come out the game as a player, look, some people are lucky enough to go and have a coaching or they stay in the game in some capacity. But by the time you get to that age, which is 30 to 35, you usually got a family, you usually got a wife, you usually got a mortgage, and you're only really halfway through your life if you're lucky. So my thing is that you need to then, I see a lot of players get to that age, and to be honest, I've seen a lot of players. I talk to a lot of players that get there and they've had a really good career, but they don't, their expenditure has been more than what they've earned. So they actually wake up one day and go, how am I kind of flat broke at 35 years of age? And in a nutshell, I haven't got a pot to piss in. And that's when it gets tough because you've got a family to feed, you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got kids to clothe. This is why I kind of give an honest assessment of what the game is about. Why don't you have a really good career in non-league football? If you can earn anything between sort of 300 quid is I see people now turning down that 300 quid a week for 2 nights a week, and on a Saturday, and I go, are you having a laugh? You know, but if you add up, let's say a teaching job, an average teacher, 30, 35 grand a year on average, depending on where you are in it. And if you can earn, you know, that in football, and that's very achievable in non-league football, 35 grand.
3 days a week.
You know, 70 grand a year.
Teachers go all over it.
But what happens then, Chris, is when you wake up at 35 years of age, you might be head of year, you might be deputy head, or something like that. You are still earning in the region of 40, 50 grand a year, dare I say more, with a great pension, and you're not having to kind of reinvent yourself to go and, you know, to go and earn money somewhere.
I think that's why we do what we do. I think, you know, there's so many, even players coming out of the game that don't know, are not thinking early enough.
Yeah.
You know, I think I already had an idea of what I wanted. I did a little bit of coaching. I did some community coaching before I turned professional, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I was always going to be a coach even when I finished. So, but I like you, I see so many people that have zero idea of what, because everybody thinks their career is going to last forever.
Yeah.
And
Everyone
it
thinks
doesn't.
a Peter Pan in the
Get,
game.
we could walk out of here and get knocked over.
Yeah.
You know, anything can happen very, very quickly. And an injury could ruin your career within 30 seconds. So it's worth planning. But going back to the sort of grassroots, and I think you're 100% right, is that do players need to become professional footballers? Do they want to become professional footballers? So mine was always a need.
Yeah.
It was never a want. Always a want.
It was a goal, wasn't it?
It was
for
a
both
need.
of us.
I needed to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't.
A tick box in you.
Yeah.
It's
not just something I wanted to. It was a definite need. I wanted a different lifestyle. I wanted different from my parents. I wanted to be able to provide and all of that sort of stuff and enjoy my life, basically, which is football's give it us. And I look at grassroots now, and you see this Jake Table. I'm going to call him Table, and I look at him and I'm thinking, 170 goals. It's fantastic. Goes to Swindon. Will he get lots of opportunities? I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope it's not I don't want to say gimmick, because he's quite popular because he scored so many goals and he's the next Jamie Vardy. I think there's even a show called Who's the Next Jamie Vardy. So he's probably doing lots of interviews. I hope it's not got nothing to do with that. I hope it's
a good manager there, to be fair to him.
I would think so with Ian Holloway.
I don't think it'd be a gimmick.
I don't think it's a gimmick. I'm thinking more along the club side.
Yeah.
You never know with these things.
Yeah.
I'm hoping
Netflix.
it's not. I hope it's a genuine opportunity for the lad, and I hope he goes and makes a career out of it.
Yeah.
But after him, who's next?
Yeah.
Is the gap too big? That's the whole point of our conversation right at the start was, is that gap too big to go from? And I'm not talking about conference, where even if you Google is grassroots too big for whatever?
Yeah.
It'll bring up players that have played in the conference, or players that went on loan, and players that were at league clubs but they dropped into non-league. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone that's never been coached in their life, never played at any level, used to play Sunday football, maybe went for a few beers on a Saturday night after, and they get an opportunity or a trial.
Yeah.
And they go and make a career out of it. I'm talking about myself here. I might write a book.
Yeah, well,
I'm looking at it and I
just think you are the true fact of it. It can happen. It does happen, and in my opinion, I think there's a lot of players out there that can make the step up. I mean, we both do. We work with the BBC. You do it with Northampton, don't you? I do it with Mansfield and Barrow and stuff like that. We cover a lot of games in the league, and I think there's a little niche there. I think I cover a lot of games in non-league. You do, and it's the whole thing about it is I see some good young players, and usually there's a kind of trail behind them, Chris, that they've been at probably a championship academy. The world's fell apart because they've been released. But I think there is, if you get the mindset right, that they don't feel sorry for themselves, if they understand what has happened in their career, if they work extremely hard, I think there's a lot of players out there with raw natural ability that just need to be told what the game's all about. I'll give you Ryan Tafazoli. Ryan Tafazoli was 6'3", 6'4", left-footed centre half, could play, had great feet, could Cruyff turn, wasn't slow. I'm not saying he was unbelievably quick, but all I needed to tell him was to be, his spec would be a dominant centre half in League Two. Now look, he's gone on to play, I don't know how many games, 250, 300 games, and he's just signed for Swindon again. He's just come back from Hong Kong. But Ollie Palmer, I signed Ollie Palmer from somewhere on the Bognor Regis town or something like that. Everyone laughed at me when I paid 12 grand for him. He's absolutely, he's absolutely ripped it up at Wrexham. Yeah. The money that the kid's earning now is absolutely mind-blowing, and I couldn't be prouder of, because he's such a lovely lad as well. And I would never take away, any young lad that's started in non-league and going and making a really good living for themselves. But I actually do think it's out there. I think, football clubs have got to get off their arse. And sometimes, I'm not talking about all of them, but there's a few of them that I think are a little bit snobby. And I think football sometimes, becomes a little bit snobby-ish. And I think if you're prepared to go and get your hands muddy and get into these games where probably unfashionable, people don't want to be seen. I think that they're out there, Chris.
I think there's some gems out there as well.
I really do.
You're right. They have to be. They've got to be found. Maybe some of these guys have got to go into these clubs, and some of these managers have got to get off the backside, like you're saying, and get out there and go and have a look themselves.
I think it's good planning. I always, whichever club we've been at since I've been in management, no matter where it was, we always got out ourselves. So me and my staff always got out. But I mean, look, even when I was at Kettering, we created a scouting system all the way through the country that never cost the club a penny. And all it was is that we put a ticket on for certain people going to certain ground. We had north, east, south, west of the whole country. This is the club at the time that didn't have nothing, no money. It was going through a transition from losing the ground, etc., going, basically folding. And we once again we worked really hard at bringing players in, working with them, and I do think that you can create good individuals but good teams if you're willing to sometimes go and get your hands dirty. But I just think certain sections of the game now are very, very snobbish, and they don't want to go and look for them. They want the polished one that is ready, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, clubs have got money to do that. Some clubs haven't, but I just think to answer the question, I think there's a lot of them out there. If we're dealing with a lot of them now. We're picking up the pieces of kids being released by academies and saying, can you find me another opportunity? So they are out there, and I think it'll continuously be that way. For coming years.
No, I agree. I think they're there, and I think, people are, like you said, people have got to go out there, and then people have got to go and find them. Unfortunately, I don't see, when I look at my own sort of journey, how many trials that I went through. I don't even know if they still do that sort of thing. I had week trial here and week trials there and week trial here.
Yeah, and sometimes because it's heartbreaking, to see a kid, because when you say to someone, you got yourself a trial here, a lot of the kids will they see themselves like we did, scoring the goal at Wembley in your dreams, and then to see them. I've seen some horror stories, some shit shows, I'll be honest with you, where.
But I look at this and I go, at what age? Because I was quite fortunate. I was 24 when I went to Middlesbrough, and which is, when everybody's telling you got to stop now, get a proper job, it ain't going to happen, you're too old, and all this sort of stuff. And I know Ian Wright was 24, and I know Jamie Vardy was in his 20s, and I go, where does the line stop for managers now? Yeah, because we talk a lot about kids being released from academies and 17 and 18, possibly even 19, but then when you're getting into your 20s, 24s, is that still going to happen? Because I think Chris Smalling was in his sort of mid-20s when he went to.
I think you've got to be open-minded. I always say, age is just a number.
Mind you, I was young-looking, so I think they thought I was like 19 or something.
And you was quick as well, to be fair.
But no, I was 24, and I think that shocked a lot of people. You got to that stage.
Did it shock you?
Not me. No, I was driven. I was purely driven. But I think I got probably.
No, but what I'm saying, for the audience is that you've lived that life. You've been on a trial. It might not have happened. Another trial. What made you carry on when others, and there'd have been 150 people like you, 150 players that just went, I've had enough of this.
I think it's a self-belief. Yeah. I've always been mentally tough and resilient anyway. Yeah. So for me, it was just a belief that I was good enough. Yeah. Regardless of what anybody said, I never hold anybody's opinions very highly. I believe in myself, and I think that's
mental resilience.
It is. Yeah. Somebody told, but I never got a no. I went to Notts County twice. You was there. Yeah. I came to Notts County a couple of times. I don't know if you was there the second time I came. Slady was in charge.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So there was.
That's why I did my cruise ship.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't go off on a tangent here. But no, Mick Walker was there the first time. Slady was there the second time. Wayne Jones was the assistant. both times.
Yeah.
Both times he wanted to sign me. Both managers went, not sure.
When was the lad, wasn't he? He was a good lad.
But he said, I'd sign you tomorrow. Both managers went, I'm not sure. Went to Forest, Frank Clark, not sure. Went to Leeds with Howard Wilkinson and Paul Hart, not sure. Got lots of not sures wherever I went. So for me, it was just a case of, okay, I'll have to prove, what do I need to do? But nobody ever tells you what you need to get better at.
Yeah.
So when I had the trials, it was a week-long trial, 1 game. So 4 days training, 1 game. I scored in every game I played in.
Yeah.
But I go, if I'm there as a goal scorer, I've done my job.
Yeah.
But if you want something else, then you've got to tell me what else you want me to do.
Yeah.
If somebody said to me, Chris, you don't hold the ball up very well, you've got to link play a little bit more, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And I'd have gone away and worked at it because I was still playing for Arnold. I went to Grimsby for a year and a half on a non-contract basis just to play in the Pontins League. Every single Wednesday I was up there with half a man. And
bless him.
Yeah,
great
absolute
man.
legend.
Great man.
And he took me up there on a Wednesday night, played in the Pontins League, went back, played for Arnold on the Saturday for about a year and a half, trying to earn a contract. And then I started having trials here, there, and everywhere. It's gone to my life story here. Need a big red book. This is your life. But it's I never stopped believing I was good enough.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you play with players and you go, I'm better than him. He's been here longer than, but I'm better than him.
Yeah.
I'm a better finisher than him. I'm a better player than him.
You have to have that.
But you have to be.
Mindset.
I always thought I've got to be better, not even as good as. I had to be better than anybody that played in my position. Yeah. And I thought I tried to do that every single time.
So for the audience now, because I think there'd be a lot of young players that would probably want to look at this. What would the 3 key points, if there was 3 points, what were 3 pieces of advice that you would give to a young player that was in the same position as you? What would be the 3 key points to good advice that you could give them?
I'd say, first of all, you've got to believe in yourself. That's a given. You've got to truly believe that you are good enough. Second, I'd say, whatever you're good at, get great at it. So I was a good finisher. I became, I think, a great finisher. I would always say I was better than anybody else as a finisher, you know. And I just suppose, just work at your game. Just get better at absolutely everything. Not just be good at or great at what you're best at. So people call it like a superpower now. They go, oh, what's your super strength? And I go, oh, finishing. So I'd be great at finishing, but it'd be all different types of finishing for me. So I'd be good with my head. So I want to be great with my head. I want to out-jump people. I want to be stronger. I want to hold up the ball better. I want to get into areas faster. I want to be able to finish with left foot, right foot. It doesn't matter where. As long as it goes in the back of the net, I'm not bothered. But then the other side of your game is just be consistent with it all the time. But I think, look, I could probably go on for ages about what you would need to do. But I think you've got to believe in yourself. I
think confidence, not arrogance, is key. I think there's a lot of people that will watch this.
You've got to take advice from people.
Yeah,
you've got to be open-minded enough to go. If somebody's telling you something, you've got to listen to it. Yeah. So it's all right being, strong-minded and believing in yourself like I did, but I was always wanted advice. Always wanted people to tell me what I needed to be better at, because I wanted to be the best. But you need somebody to tell you what you're not great at.
I think you always need guidance. I always think you need that guidance. I think, but I think you've got to have resilience. Resilience in the game now, I think, is disappearing. We've spoke about it in the past. We speak about it now. We spoke about it on social media about can you breed this? Can you put it into a player? But I think that design and the way you apply yourself is key. We've talked about key areas I look for when a player came in on trial for me, and I think the advice you've given is fantastic. I think the number one, like you've just said, is that you've got to believe in yourself, because this
crucial.
is anybody out there that thinks professional football is easy and it's a nice business and everyone sees the Lambos and the Cristal champagne and the models and stuff like that. It's a shit show. It really is.
Brutal.
Look, don't get me wrong. It's a very enjoyable shit show. I'd go back and do it all for nothing again, if I could play, I would go back and do it for nothing. It was the emotion of it is in, and the chemicals that run through your body when you score, when you hear the crowd. That is pure. That is you can't replicate.
You can't replicate it, can you? Not at all. I remember
all the other stuff that comes with it, Chris. I mean, honestly, it's a tough, horrible, nasty business. I said I did an interview with somebody, and he genuinely asked me. This is years ago, and he said genuinely asked me what it was like to be a manager of a football club. I said, well, I class myself as going every morning with lion, tigers, bears, snakes, and he kind of gave me a bit of a weird look. I said, oh, was there something wrong with that? And he went, well, kind of explain. And I said, well, a football environment is so you turn your back on these animals that you work with, you get bit, and that's how football is. But people from the outside don't see that because of the passion and the euphoria that comes with, and the downside of losing somehow. People don't see the ins and outs of sometimes what these young footballers, male and female now, because it's a balanced game. People don't see the pressures. They don't see. I mean, we've had it now. I'm going off at a tangent, but we have it where some players get that built up amongst themselves that they're going to be a professional footballer. That when it's not there anymore. We've had young men taking their own life, and we both know personally people that have got to a certain point and taken their own life in it, and it is so. I think that resilience. I think the advice you've given is unbelievable, and if anybody would want any advice, I say get in touch and listen to. We had both different sort of pathways in the beginning, didn't we? But we if we put our pathways together, I would say both were really, really tough. It's really, really tough to break in and really tough to be consistent, and for these people that play, 600, 700, 800 games, and I just go unbelievable to stay injury free, to stay focused, to stay away from the bad crowd that follow you around when you start to get money. Yeah. When you start to drive a nice car, there's always people that want to come and. These are some of the things I think we'd be really good to talk about, and probably talk about our experiences about this in future podcasts, because I think not even the young people, probably the mums and dads of young players that are coming through, I think sometimes they need sometimes a reality check on what this game is about. Yeah. And I think the one thing that me and you've never done since we've been kids is we've never changed our perspective on telling it as we see it. And I think
it's important. I really
we can't put a cherry on the top of this.
No, you've got to be honest with it, and it's not a glamorous lifestyle.
It is the best game in the world.
There's glamorous parts to it, and everybody always, like you said, people always see the Lambos and stuff. I never had a Lambo, by the way. Yeah. Just so you know. But everybody sees all of that, but they see the top 1% of the players. You see your Ronaldos, your Messis, and your Beckhams when he was at it, and those sort of lifestyles. And I think that's going to be
even
it.
Some of those wake up divorce. Overspending on silly things, and some of them wake up one day. John Barnes has just been
bankrupt.
Been made bankrupt.
Yeah, but this is
footballer, by the way.
This is what people see, though, don't they? They see the glamorous side. They don't see the hard stuff, which is what we talk about all the time when we talk to people about it. And I wouldn't dissuade anybody from being a pro. I'd always put the information in front of them and they make a decision, because I think people that want to be professional comes from when they were children. Yeah. I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a professional footballer, which is what we were. But
we lived that dream.
Yeah, but I think that's the dream when you're kids. Yeah. The reality is when you get older is, do you really need to be? So do you need to go from grassroots to that when you can make absolutely decent wage and have a career?
You can make more money.
You can make more money playing non-league and having a career that's going to last you a lifetime than going into professional football.
Having 10 years in First Division.
So, but that's the honesty that we bring. But
yeah, so what shall we do? Wrap it up on that, because I think that can lead on to some really, really good podcasts in the future, and it'd be interesting to get people's feedback, especially some of the stuff you've said, which has been I think unbelievable and great advice for.
To be honest, we could do about 10 podcasts on that. I could talk about that all day long. So I know we had a couple of extra things we were going to talk about, but I totally agree. I think we should wrap it up there. I think it's been absolutely spot on, and great to talk back of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, really, really good, really crucial.
Well, the thing is, Chris, I think to sum it up, if somebody can benefit from your advice on your pathway, because we did have different pathways, then I go fantastic. We might have a young man that realizes his dream, and the dream sometimes can be not just playing professional football, but having an unbelievable career in teaching, building, as well as playing football.
It applies to all of it, doesn't it? You know, you are going to get, and this is where the resilient side of it comes in. There's nothing worse than being told no after you've put a lot of effort into trying to do something, or, you know, not even getting the opportunity. Because, in fact, I remember Mick Walker come to watch me play a game, and it was on a horrible pitch. And I found out later on, but apparently he left at half time. It was a horrible pitch. I didn't touch the ball much, to be honest. It was one of them games, you know, and he left at half time. If it had stayed, I scored a hat-trick in the second half. But it is what it is. And I had no problem with Mick Walker anyway. I thought he was a fantastic guy. But sometimes you got to stick around.
Sometimes sliding doors.
It is,
right
but again,
right
it is. And I go, was I disappointed? I go, no, because again, it's out of my control. And this is where my mindset was all the time. If things are out of my control, I don't worry about it. I don't bother with it.
Yeah.
I just go, well, I did what I did. It took me longer to do it than it should have took me. So what? Again, I should get it tattooed. It is what it is. And that was my mindset all the time. And I think sometimes that's the mindset you've got to have when you're talking about resilience. That happens. So what? Move on.
Move on. Yeah.
And I think that's probably a great place to leave this here. So,
yeah, well, enjoyed it again.
Fantastic. Been great.
Yeah.
Tune in for the next one.
Yeah.